If you've encountered this content, understand that it wasn't a random occurrence or a fortunate twist of the algorithm. There are instances when inner knowing takes the lead and guides your footsteps toward an answer that logical thinking cannot articulate. This is precisely one of those instances. It's quite possible that, for some time now, you've sensed that a particular chapter in your existence remains unfinished, hovering like an incomplete sentence or a tune that paused before reaching its closing note. It doesn't feel like an absolute ending, yet it refuses to move toward any clear resolution. This sensation of being stuck isn't a product of wishful thinking or an illusion manufactured by a desire to cling to what once was. It's a genuine perception that there exists a cycle not yet properly concluded. Life observes what you carry in silence. The universe bears witness to the sleepless nights, the mental confusion, and that recurring question about whether what you experienced was a mirage or absolute truth. It perceives the emotional exhaustion that arises when faith weakens in the absence of tangible signs in the physical realm. However, if you're receiving this message now, it's because there's still a living thread in this connection. Perhaps there were words left unspoken, decisions postponed due to fear, or feelings concealed behind pride and silence. The most challenging aspect of this phase isn't the physical distance or the lack of digital communication, but rather the uncertainty about whether to continue believing in the connection or attempt to release it entirely. This doubt weighs heavier than any explicit rejection. It's crucial to understand that this message arrives not to create more confusion, but to bring radical clarity. The fear you experience stems from attempting to solve a spiritual problem using logical tools. You've tried analyzing every gesture, every absence, and every silence from this person in search of a coherent explanation. But profound connections don't respond to ordinary logic. What's about to be defined in your reality depends on an internal decision that only your being can make. Not tomorrow, not when you feel stronger, right now. There are connections that don't wait forever, and windows of opportunity that allow for reunion or release. Your next step isn't a small action or an insignificant movement. It's not about sending an impulsive text message or forcing a physical meeting. It's about a shift in consciousness that can either open the pathway or close it permanently. Certain connections didn't arise from nowhere. There was mutual recognition, something that awakened dormant parts within you, and that's why the separation hurts so deeply. But the encouraging news is that destiny doesn't toy with emotions. If this person continues occupying space in your consciousness, it's because the lessons and purpose of the connection remain relevant. Prepare yourself, because what you're about to discover will transform how you interpret silence and give you the key to unlocking the flow of this relationship. To move forward toward resolving this connection, it's first necessary to validate what you're feeling and reject the idea that you're losing your sanity. Society and your environment often advise quick forgetting and suggest that turning the page is simply a matter of willpower. However, depth psychology and universal laws converge on something fundamental. Physical distance is merely an illusion when the mental connection remains active. You cannot simply forget, because this isn't an ordinary memory. It's a profound recognition that occurs at a level where time and space don't hold the same power as in the material world. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in studying the human psyche, introduced the existence of the collective unconscious and synchronicity. Jung proposed that there are events that appear to be coincidences, but are actually connected by profound meaning. When two people share genuine intimacy and soul revelation, a psychic bridge is created that doesn't simply break because communication stops. That's why, sometimes out of nowhere, the memory of this person overwhelms you with intense force. Or why you dream about their presence precisely when you decided to stop thinking about them. This isn't an intrusive idea, it's information. It's confirmation that the connection still lives on an invisible level. Write "connection" in the comments if you sense this right now. This connection isn't measured by the frequency of messages or hesitant promises. It's measured by what activates inside your being each time this person's energy crosses your thoughts. It's measured by how your heart responds and how your intuition persists, even when your logical mind tries to deny the significance of the connection. This doesn't happen by chance. It happens because universal intelligence is allowing you to learn something essential about love and about your own nature. For a long time, you've tried understanding this story by observing the external behavior of the other person, as if all truth were contained there. But the secret isn't on the outside. This person entered your life to function as a high-fidelity mirror. Everything that attracts you to them, and everything that causes you pain in their absence, is a reflection of aspects that live within you. Jung spoke of projection, and in this case, this person came to show you your deepest fears through representation, as well as your infinite capacity to love and your vulnerability. That's why the absence of clarity hurts so much, because you're not only afraid of losing someone external, you're afraid of losing the version of yourself that awakened through this connection. This sensitive and open version, capable of feeling deeply. The true fear is closing yourself off again. It's the thought that this inner light will disappear if this person doesn't return. It's important to understand that the universe didn't punish you with this feeling. If the memory persists, it's because the internal transformation that this connection was meant to provoke hasn't yet been completed. Soul connections have an evolutionary purpose. It seems they don't fill voids of boredom, but rather provoke growth that wouldn't happen in isolation. However, this is where most people make the fundamental mistake that blocks the return. They continue looking at the mirror, expecting the image to change on its own, not understanding that the mirror has no will of its own. The mirror only reflects what's in front of it. As long as you continue projecting expectations, fear, and needs, the mirror will return distance and silence. But there's a switch, a way to change the projected image that immediately transforms the reality of the connection. Every morning you make a subtle mistake that pushes away what you most want to attract. Understanding this is the first step toward recovering your power in this story. It's necessary to dive into the daily dynamics that keep this situation stagnant and analyze the behavior that unknowingly becomes the biggest obstacle to reunion. There's an invisible routine that many people in this situation adopt almost as a ritual of pain. It begins with waking up, when the first thought automatically reaches for the absence of this person. It continues with checking the phone, searching for a notification that didn't arrive, analyzing their last online time, or seeking clues on social media that indicate what the other person is thinking or feeling. This constant monitoring, which the mind interprets as a way to preserve the connection or not lose control, is actually a quiet mistake that cools the connection. Waiting, contrary to popular belief, isn't a passive or neutral action. Waiting is an active and powerful energetic action, but its charge is dense. When you immerse yourself in the energy of waiting, you send a constant signal to the universe and to the other person's psyche that clearly states, "This isn't here, this is missing." Waiting feeds on lack, and in the world of energy and universal laws, lack only attracts more lack. By keeping yourself in a state of anxious waiting, you're actually transmitting distrust. You're saying that you don't believe the connection can manifest without your desperate vigilance. This distrust creates resistance, and resistance is the opposite of flow. The universe responds to vibration, not to words or mental supplications, and the vibration of waiting is identical to the vibration of absence. By holding yourself in this frequency, you're inadvertently programming reality to keep delivering exactly what you're vibrating. More waiting, more absence, more silence. This is the trap that keeps countless people stuck for months or even years in the same unresolved situation. The irony is brutal. The more you try to ensure the connection through worry, the more you push it away. The more you attempt to control the outcome, the less control you actually have. This doesn't mean you should become indifferent or force yourself to stop caring. That would be emotional suppression, which is just another form of resistance. What needs to happen is a radical shift in focus. Instead of directing all your attention outward, toward this person and what they're doing or not doing, you need to redirect that attention inward, toward yourself and your own state of being. This isn't selfishness or abandonment of the connection. It's the only way to restore balance to the energetic equation. When you're constantly focused on the other person, you create an imbalance. You become the giver, and they become the receiver. You're transmitting, and they're absorbing. This creates a dynamic where they have no reason to seek you out because they're already energetically fed. They feel your presence constantly, even without physical contact. Meanwhile, you feel increasingly depleted, as if you're pouring from an empty cup. The shift requires withdrawing your attention from them and placing it where it truly belongs, on your own life, your own growth, your own joy. This isn't a strategy to manipulate them into coming back. It's a necessary act of self-preservation and energetic hygiene. When you genuinely shift your focus to yourself, not as a tactic but as a true commitment to your own well-being, something remarkable happens in the energy field between you. The constant flow of attention from you to them stops. The energetic cord that was draining you begins to dissolve, and in that space, a vacuum is created. This vacuum is crucial because it allows for new movement. As long as you're filling every moment with thoughts of them, there's no space for anything new to emerge. But when you step back and genuinely occupy yourself with your own life, you create the space necessary for transformation. This is when they might begin to feel your absence, not as relief, but as a puzzling void. Something they took for granted is suddenly gone, and that creates a subtle pull. They can't name it or explain it logically, but they feel that something has shifted. You're no longer the predictable option waiting in the background. You've become someone who values themselves enough to move forward. And paradoxically, this is when true attraction can occur, because attraction is born from wholeness, not from need. The challenge is maintaining this new stance without falling back into old patterns. The mind will try to convince you that you're giving up, or that you'll lose them by not paying attention. But remember, you never truly had them through worrying. You were only exhausting yourself. By reclaiming your energy and focus, you're not losing anything real. You're only releasing what was never serving you, the illusion of control through anxiety. This is the turning point where you must choose between two paths that cannot be walked simultaneously: the path of releasing fear or the path of gaining certainty. For too long, fear has been the silent scriptwriter of this story, dictating every anxious thought and every sleepless night, whispering to you that if you stop insisting, the connection will vanish. But the truth is the exact opposite. It's fear that keeps the connection in a state of suffocation. The step you must take today involves abandoning the need to control the outcome in order to gain something far more valuable: your own peace and alignment. Here lies the greatest paradox of spiritual connections. To have something, you must first be willing to lose it, or at least loosen your desperate grip. It's not about stopping loving, but about stopping needing. This is a declaration of emotional independence, when you internally decide that your well-being is no longer negotiable and that your happiness isn't a bargaining chip carried in someone else's pocket. In the structure of relationships, a seismic shift occurs. Destiny interprets this position not as arrogance, but as dignity. And dignity is undoubtedly the most attractive quality that exists in the universe. Write worthy in the comments to choose yourself. This movement requires courage because it means facing the temporary emptiness that obsession leaves behind. But it's precisely in this space that magic can occur, when you feel your soul is ready to stop asking for attention and start attracting what rightfully belongs to you. By the law of consciousness, it's necessary to anchor this decision on the physical plane as an act of commitment to your own process and to send the universe a clear signal that you've understood the lesson. By doing this, you're not simply writing words, you're signing an energetic contract with yourself and with life, confirming that you no longer accept fragments, doubts, or crumbs of affection. This declaration marks the end of the victim phase and the beginning of the creator phase. By acknowledging that you deserve totality, you're telling the universe that anything less no longer resonates with you. And strangely enough, when you raise your standard, reality is forced to rise to meet you. This person, who until now has been acting from a comfortable place, knowing you were waiting, will feel the change. They won't be able to explain it logically, but they'll sense that something fundamental has shifted. You're no longer the safe option at the end of the hallway. You've become an enigma, someone who values themselves enough to move forward. Once you make this decision, something remarkable happens in the other person's psyche. Jung spoke of participatory mysticism, the merging of identities where it becomes difficult to understand where one ends and the other begins. By breaking the dependency, you break this unhealthy fusion and become a whole person again. And only two whole people can meet in sacred union. This is your next step, to step back from the edge of desperation and stand firmly in the center of your own life. It's a movement that opens a new path or permanently closes an old one, but in either case, it returns freedom to you. And only from freedom can true love flourish. Now that the decision has been made, a practical question arises: how to maintain this state in daily life? Here we enter the realm of inner alchemy, the process of transforming the lead of fear into the gold of personal magnetism. The concept of letting go is often misunderstood and causes enormous resistance because the mind associates it with forgetting, indifference, or definitive loss. It's mistakenly believed that letting go means erasing this person from memory or ceasing to want their presence. Nothing could be further from the truth. Letting go in the spiritual and energetic sense isn't an act of banishment. It's an act of liberation. Letting go means relinquishing obsessive control over when and how. It means removing your hands from the throat of destiny so it can breathe. Imagine you're tightly holding a handful of sand. The more you clench your fist, the more grains slip through your fingers. When you let go, you simply open your hand. The sand is still there, but now it rests on your palm without pressure. Similarly, you can preserve love for this person in your heart without the need to suffocate the connection with urgency. It's precisely this shift in attitude that allows energy to flow back to you instead of constantly flowing outward. In energetic work, there's a mechanical principle. Attention directs energy. All this time, obsessively thinking about this person, checking their movements and worrying about their absence, you've been sending them an enormous amount of your own vital energy. You've literally been feeding your energetic system to theirs. That's why this person feels so calm, so capable of living their life without looking back. They're full of your energy. They don't need to seek you out because you're constantly energetically present. You, on the other hand, feel constant depletion, fatigue, and emptiness because you're giving away your power. The alchemy begins when you decide to redirect this attention and bring it home to your center. At first, this may feel strange, as if you're cutting off a vital supply, but it's necessary. When you stop energetically feeding the other side, two things happen. First, you restore your vital force, your radiance, and your attractiveness. You become again that interesting and vibrant person someone could fall in love with. Second, the other person experiences a supply interruption. Suddenly, the constant stream of attention they were receiving for free stops. When this energetic feeding pattern collapses, a vacuum is created, and the universe abhors a vacuum. It's at this moment that the dynamic begins to shift. The other person suddenly senses the absence of your presence, not as pressure, but as an unresolved emptiness. Something is missing, something they previously took for granted without question. This subtle attraction, this feeling that your energy is no longer available, awakens instinctive curiosity. It's not uncommon for the other side to begin at precisely this moment questioning, what happened inside you? Why have you become internally peaceful? And why doesn't your energy flow toward them as it once did? This mystery, this new version of you that's no longer available at the push of a button, becomes magnetism, and magnetism arising from inner calm is far stronger than any form of pursuit. Here, the highest truth of this entire journey is revealed. It's not longing that brings someone back, but your return to yourself. When you gather your energy, occupy your center, and stop losing yourself in the external world, you send the clearest message to the universe and to this person. A message that comes not from lack, but from abundance, and abundance attracts. Whether this connection will ultimately be renewed or dissolved no longer matters in this state, because you've regained control over your own story. Then reunion can happen not as rescue, but as a conscious choice of two complete souls. And if the universe has destined this path for you, the door will open at the right time, effortlessly, clearly, and without struggle. Write "I accept" in the comments to anchor this intention.